because I gave up all my hope. I was like, I literally convinced myself that King's was not going to happen, and I gave up all hope. And I really wish I can kind of tell people and tell myself back in that time to don't give up hope. Wait, so I should look there, right?
At the lens, yeah. Hey everyone, how's it going? So I'm continuing my little interview trend, and today I have got a very special guest with me. This is Kenji, and Kenji is a medical student who is doing a work placement in our labs, and that's how we met.
Yep.
And I thought I would interview him today all about his experience of being a medic, how he applied, because you also studied biomedical sciences.
I did, yes.
You?
I was at the University of Birmingham.
Yeah, so do you want to tell them like a little bit about yourself and who you are? And he's also a YouTuber, so go and check him out below. So why don't you start off telling a little bit about yourself, and we can get into some questions.
Okay, let's go. So yes, I'm Kenji. Right now I'm studying medicine, but as Atousa said, I was at University of Birmingham, studied biomedical science, and the reason why I did that is because I always wanted to go into medicine. Well, actually, when I was a kid, I really wanted to do science, so I watched like Dexter's Laboratory.
My latest, greatest work is just about completed.
I don't know if you watched that yourself, but I love that so much, and I always wanted to be a scientist. And then as I got older, I kind of thought about, the fact that I can do both. If I become a doctor, I can also, be a doctor and also do research as well.
Yeah.
So in my A-levels, I got to the application stage. Actually, I didn't get there because I got ABB in my AS.
I got the same.
And then I was predicted A* AB. So my kind of dreams of becoming a doctor was kind of ruined.
Yeah.
But then I thought that, I'd go back to my original idea, which is biomedical science, with the hopes of one day doing medicine. So I went through biomedical science and I finally got the grades to apply for medicine. And I did that. And yeah, here we are basically.
And here we are. And Kenji's just finished his, you've just gotten your results and you've made it to
so I made it in second year, so we're there now. Thank you very much.
Okay, so that was like a little bit of a brief story. So I've got some questions that I've got on my trusty Mac here that I'm going to ask Kenji. So I guess I'm going to start with a tough question.
Okay, let's go for it.
It is the why do you want to get into medicine? Because I know a lot of the people who watch my channel are in biomedical sciences, and they all want to go into like some kind of a healthcare role. Yeah. But for you, why medicine?
So I think like for me, so you mean the reason why I decided to be a doctor? Do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I was brought up in Kenya, and I was born there. I was bred there, and we always used to go to the slums to kind of like volunteer, like help build the infrastructure, and to spend time with people who are less fortunate to us. Yeah. And then, alongside my interest in medicine, it kind of made me realize that if I do become a doctor, there's so much I can do for the world. And I really wanted to just come back to Kenya one day, maybe, and provide a free healthcare service. Because there's so many things in life I think people take for granted, like access to healthcare, education, and just these little things in life that we do take for granted. And I just realized what kind of becoming a doctor could do for everyone else in the world. And that's when I decided to, I kind of wanted to be a doctor. And I think like medicine's one thing for me where all of my skills that I've been like kind of blessed with work to being a doctor. Yeah, I think all the characteristics that you need to be a doctor, I feel like my skills kind of match, with that career. Not entirely, but in most ways.
Yeah, and actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because do you think there were certain skills that you didn't have that you've developed through, for example, going through biomed and through? Because I personally think that a lot of the skills, if you don't have them, you can work and develop them. Some people might be naturally more inclined to having them. So what do you think? Do you think there are certain things you built up?
Yeah, coming in. I think definitely confidence. Yes. So I think whether it's like talking to people and being social and stuff like that, I was very, very nervous. Even like in social situations, like I was always a social person.
Yes, yeah.
But even like professionally, like with interviews, I was very scared of interviews. And then biomedical, I'm better now, so it's all good. But with biomedical science, there were so many opportunities where I was interviewed. Like with my research projects, applying for my research projects, applying for funding, presenting. There's so many things where I just couldn't do professionally. Yes. And one of the things was socializing. Yeah. So now I think, it prepared me so well for the MMI interviews, for the interviews for medicine. I was so able to kind of talk to people who are more academic than me, and just, do well in that sense, I guess. Because obviously like in biomed, there's so many like poster presentations, there's so many opportunities to be presented, and like be interviewed. And I think that prepared me like perfectly for the interviews and also just becoming a doctor in general.
Yeah, amazing. Okay. Yeah. So another one of the questions that I have on my list is, so you did biomedical sciences, and obviously you're taking a very long road, aren't you? Because
definitely.
another one of the questions that I personally have, and I get a lot of you guys asking me, is it worth going and doing 3 years of undergraduate first and then going and doing medicine? Because just lots of extra work, isn't it? And
True,
what's your experience been? Is it worth it? Would you recommend it?
Yeah,
Tell us.
I think it's 100% been worth it because, so for me personally, I think getting into medicine at 18 just wasn't for me. Like, I think if I got into medicine as a teenager, I wouldn't be able to do it. And like now being 22, I'd be a doctor next year. And I can't imagine like being a doctor already.
I know, it's scary,
It is so scary. So I think it made me so much more mature. And I think also just appreciate where I am now. So I think a lot of people who get into medicine straight away may not necessarily kind of value it as much as I do. And I think being a doctor, I will love my job so much more having gone through an extra 3 years.
Yes.
And it's also given me like an extra 3 years of my life to develop and mature and become the better doctor that I hope I will be one day. So 100%, I think now that I'm here, I do not regret a single thing.
Yeah.
And it gave me, it prepared me so perfectly for where I am now.
No, definitely. And I guess just one more thing to add on that from my perspective as well, is that I think when you're young, when you're 17, 18, you have to make these big decisions. And like 3 years itself seems like a really long time. Never mind doing 3 years and then doing medicine on top. But like time goes quickly, and like, you have to think it's a journey, and like the pursuit of medicine or the pursuit of something can be just as good.
Definitely, 100%. I think people like think that it's a destination, you get there in the end, but it really isn't. I think especially in medicine, you'll always be chasing something. Like until you're a consultant, and even when you're a consultant, you'll always be chasing something. And it's like exactly like you said. It's such a good drive, and it is about the journey. And I had such an amazing 3 years. Yeah. And although sometimes it can feel long when you're there, the 3 years went by so quickly, and and I met so many amazing people. I did so many amazing things in biomedical sciences, which have just prepared me for where I am now.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. So if anybody's having that anxiety, don't. It's fine.
Honestly, it'll be fine.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. And okay, now this is a good one. So it's been a long road. We have already discussed this.
Yeah.
At any point, did you change your mind and think, oh, this is too hard, maybe I'll go and do something else, I don't want to do medicine? Did you have any setbacks, and how did you overcome them?
Okay, I think in a way there's always that person in the back of your mind that's like, am I good enough? And I think a lot of people get into the idea that medicine is impossible and you can't do it. And it really isn't true. Like, until you make it, you always think it's impossible.
Yes.
But for me, there definitely were a few things in my past that kind of made me think, maybe I can't be a doctor. Yeah. And it wasn't until the third year where I got rejected, like a number of times. So in my, I think it was my final year, I applied to Birmingham, Queen Mary's, Manchester, and King's as well. Yeah. And I had a guaranteed interview for Birmingham because I was there already. And then I had the interview, and I got rejected from that. And so I was on the waiting list. I think I was like second, and that gave me some hope, because my friend the year before got in, being second on the waiting list. So I had a bit of hope there. And then I was rejected without interview from Queen's and Manchester as well. And then I hadn't heard back from King's, and it was kind of like, I think, February time. Yes. And then I was really, really hoping that I'd get into medicine through Birmingham. Yeah. And then I got an email saying they rejected me. And I think that was the moment where I was like literally, it was so much pain, and I was like, maybe medicine isn't for me, and maybe I should do something else. And I remember actually, like, I'm not even a business person, but I got like a sheet of paper out, and I made this like business plan of like going back to Kenya, literally like going back to Kenya, making like, I don't know, some random business. I don't even like business, but I just thought like, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. But for me, so eventually what happened is that King's did eventually email me. So I kind of thought that if all these universities have rejected me, there's no way in hell like King's, being such a good university, would accept me. But then in March time, I got invited for interview, and I was sat at dinner, and I got like a message on my watch. And I was like, it must be a rejection. So I went online and I saw that I'd been invited, and I was like over the moon, like I was ecstatic.
That is so exciting.
It was, so my life literally changed in 5 days. I think they gave me like maybe a week notice. So I had my dissertation due in 5 days. And then I think about maybe 3 days after that I had my interview. And my life changed from being like really like sad, going through a really tough time, like not getting into medicine, to getting an offer. And I got the offer 2 days after the interview. So within literally a span of 2 weeks, like my life changed completely. Yeah. And I think it can be so easy to just be sucked into this like hole if you don't get into medicine, and kind of be depressed and unhappy with yourself. Yeah. And I think you have to realize that you have to kind of separate the end goal from how you work. So don't be driven by the end goal, and don't be attached.
That's
Don't
so
don't be
true.
emotionally attached to the kind of outcome.
Yes.
So if you're applying to medicine, don't be attached to getting into medicine, and don't let it affect how you work as a person. Because I guess if I didn't get into medicine, maybe there might have been a side of me that wanted to kind of give up and not work as hard for biomedical sciences. But you need to literally like detach yourself from the outcome.
Yeah.
And don't give up hope. Like have hope in yourself and trust in yourself. Because I gave up all my hope. I was like,
Yeah.
I literally convinced myself that King's was not going to happen, and I gave up all hope. And I really wish I can kind of tell people and tell myself back in that time to don't give up hope until you get the offer, and you will one day.
Yeah, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to kind of fall down that downward spiral.
Definitely, yeah.
But I think, as Kenji very rightly said, sometimes like if you let go of if you let go of your grip on something,
Yeah.
then sometimes it makes it easier. And there's a saying I've heard recently that says like you'll get to where you want to get to, but you might not get there the way you expected to.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I mean, back in the day, I wanted to do medicine when I was like 17, but through like a whole series of events, like I changed my mind and I like lost my confidence. And it's funny because I'm 24 now, and I'm like back in that same stage, and I'm still as hungry, and I'm still as like excited to do it, and I don't regret at all like the road I've taken. So
definitely, I think like one more thing is that you can connect the dots looking backwards, but you can't connect the dots looking forwards.
Yes,
and
I love
if you
that.
like look at me now and where I am now,
Yeah.
I can definitely understand where all the dots connected to lead me to where I am now.
Yeah.
But when you're in there, you can never predict the future,
Yeah.
and you can never like know where you'll be. But it all makes sense in the end, and it makes
Yes.
sense why I went through all of this pain and
Yeah.
suffering, because it's going to make me
get
such
to
a
that.
better person, and to be a
Exactly.
medic.
Okay, so this is a bit of a throw-off question.
Okay,
Give
let's
me an
go for it.
example
Yeah.
of one of the dots that at the time you didn't like see the significance of, but now you look back and think
Yeah.
that was like a really important point or
Like life
moment.
lesson.
Yeah.
So I think it was definitely like the rejection, the feeling of like rejection and not getting in. So for me, like I was like, why did this happen? Like, what was the point of being rejected and eventually getting into King's? Like, why not just get the King's offer before? Like, my life would have been so much easier if King's gave me the offer before, then I had all these
Damn
rejections.
King's.
Yeah. So I think it was definitely that. Like now I look back on it, I realised that. So I've learned not to give up hope on myself.
Yes.
To trust
That's so
myself, trust the
important.
process, and just trusting yourself a lot. And just stay motivated. And now, like in the future, if I get rejected, I won't necessarily see it as rejection. I'll see it as a redirection, or
Yes.
towards where I want to
I
go,
like that.
or
Yeah.
somewhere completely different.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely was a good thing getting all those rejections
Yeah.
and going through that pain and suffering. Because if you've never had that pain and suffering in your past, when you hit some form of adversity in your life, you'll
Yes.
give up straight away.
I'm a
But because I've
believer.
had all this adversity in my life, if I fail an exam in medical school, I'll know how to deal with it, and I know exactly what needs to be done to get where I want to be.
Yeah, and I think those are really wise words for anybody, not just applying to medicine, but just in life in general.
Definitely,
I think failure builds grit,
Definitely,
and
100%.
it makes you stronger. So it's a lucky story. Thank you for
Thank
sharing. Okay, so let's see what else is in here.
go.
Briefly tell us a little bit about your, I guess, application process, but. Kenji actually has already got a video talking all about like how he got into medicine, so go and check him out. Shameless plug, throwing it in there. But tell us a little bit briefly about like how you applied, what was the process? Because I know you said at the beginning that your A-level grades weren't the best. So how did you maneuver around, not having the highest grades but still getting where you are?
Okay, so as I said, I got ABB in A-levels, and like don't get me wrong, those are amazing grades.
Yeah.
But if you want to apply to medicine, that's not necessarily the best grades. That that everyone who applies to medicine has at least 3 A's.
Yeah.
So I got ABB. I also got I think 650 in the UK CAT, something similar. So that again is not the best UK CAT score. It is a good score, but it's not the best score out there. So I think for me, it's recognizing like where you're strong and where you're weak. So for me, 100%, my academics weren't necessarily the best part of my application. So to kind of counteract that, I made sure my personal statement was as good as it could possibly be. So I did all of the like extra work. I did loads of work experience. I did summer research projects.
And can you give us some examples of some of the like work experiences that you've done?
Yeah, so I ticked all the boxes in terms of what you need for medicine. So
Yes,
obviously
yeah.
the GP,
Yeah.
the hospital work, and the hospice work as well. But outside of that, I was a technology ambassador. So I was a technology ambassador for
Ooh, like to
Birmingham.
know this.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was a social media ambassador. I got a personal skills award. I did research projects.
Yeah.
So I did like an 8-week project over
Yeah.
summer. I got funding for that. I got funding from the Wellcome Trust for that.
Oh, amazing.
I did an extended literature review project where I did like my kind of own research
Yes.
to make a review. So I tried to strengthen my application. So I really tried to strengthen my application, and I knew where my weak points were, and I worked against it, and it worked out in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This is probably why you're so good at social media, because this guy constantly roasts me for like not knowing how to use Snapchat properly. Like, hey, you've had training.
I have. Like, well, she has 2 degrees, but Snapchat definitely isn't one of them.
Can't function it. Okay. So the other thing I was going to ask was, so in terms of, I know like you said your experiences kind of were your strengths, but in terms of writing your personal statement, what kind of things do you think made your personal statement stand out compared to a lot of other people? Because I know we've spoken about this before, and you've said that your personal statement has been kind of like a strong point of yours. So how else did you make that strong?
So I think it was, so just, in terms of what I just said, so it's talking about my research project. It was talking about, the using my background in science and biomedical science to my strengths. So it was talking about how I wanted to, the bench to bedside kind of thing, where I've done all this work in, in the labs, trying to go down that route of, I am a scientist and I want to apply this science as a doctor one day.
Yes, and sorry to interrupt you, that's just quite important, because a lot of people who I speak to recently, medics and all, like research in medicine has become a really big thing, and there's a trend now where before you used to have scientists and you used to have doctors, and now they're kind of merging, and I think it's amazing, because doctors need to have research skills, and researchers need to be more aware that what they do in a lab actually has implications in the clinic.
Exactly.
So if you can talk about your personal statements and kind of like show that you are interested in both, then that'll definitely be a really big advantage.
Definitely, and do something different, because I think a lot of people who apply to medicine, you're obviously going to tick all the boxes of, GP, hospital work, etc. But try to find something that's unique to you. So for me, like my introduction was basically talking about my story from Kenya and talking about how I was in the slums a lot of times trying to volunteer for people and trying to help them in that way. And that hopefully made me stand out, as something different to everyone else who applies. So that was a key thing for me. And then using my strengths, like my background in research as well. So do something that's completely different and something that's unique to you, that will help you.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that was really useful. Now I'm going to finish off, and I like asking these questions. So you have just finished your first year.
I have.
Share with us first a challenging or a difficult day from your first year of being a medic, and how you kind of went about it, and what was it like? How did you overcome like a really difficult day? And we can do.
Does it necessarily have to be in medicine, or can it just be like a life experience that? What would you prefer?
Let's do both. Why not?
Okay.
Start with your life one first, if that's what you.
Okay. I think like in medicine, like being a doctor, there's so many things that can happen in your life. So whether it's like a breakup, or like you've lost a family member, you lost a friendship, that can put a lot of like toll on your life as a medic, because medicine, it's a very stressful degree. We do have a lot of hours, and it can be easily like kind of be taken away from medicine. So for me, I think it was just like losing some relationships in my past, which was really hard for me to kind of tackle that with medicine as well, because there's all these hours I have to do. And I think it's just doing it. I think when certain things happen to me in my past, you realise you have so much responsibility, and in your life as a doctor, you'll always have some sort of adversity. Like you may divorce your wife, you may lose friends, you may lose family members.
Anything,
But it's just being resilient and being able to remember that you have a lot of responsibility as a medical student and as a doctor as well. So when those sort of things happen to me, I realised that I have a tutorial tomorrow. I have a dissection. I remember the next morning I had a massive dissection that I had to go to. I had my responsibilities in research. I had the labs, and it just made me a lot more resilient to realise that I had a lot of responsibility.
And how did you kind of push through it? Because obviously, like if you've just been through something, whether it's a breakup or whatever, like something difficult, how did you kind of conjure up the strength to think, well, I still have to get through this. I still have to push forward.
I think it's like. It was probably the fact that I worked so hard to get into medicine. I worked.
Gratitude.
Exactly. It was the fact that I failed to get into medicine the first time. I've gone through 3 years of biomedical science, so my house was built on rock. And although situations made it a bit shaky, my foundations were already built in biomedical science. And it was I would never give anything up in the world. For me the most important thing was my career, and it was just being strong and resilient and remembering the reason why I started it. Remembering the reason why I was doing what I was doing. You know, doing medicine is like more bigger than me. Like it was for my family, it was myself. There's so many different reasons why I was doing medicine, and maybe you might lose one of the reasons why you want to do medicine, but you just have so many different things.
Absolutely.
That the reason why you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, just to pick up on something you just said that I think is really important is like, not just in medicine. I think in anything you do in life, I always tell this to people. I always say, when somebody asks me, I need motivation to do X or Y, and I always say, find a reason, like find a way that doing that thing will help you serve other people.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? And I always think that when you're whatever you choose to pursue, could be medicine, could be anything. You could work in a coffee shop and you think, how could I be the best person who serves coffee? How can I make somebody else's day better? How can I, that always pushes you to do more. So I think having that gratitude can really help.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think like finding your why, what's your reason, what's your why, like what makes you get up in the morning,
Absolutely.
And it's if it's for you, or if it's that's a really good thing. If it's for you, that's fine. But if it's for the fame, exactly. If it's for the fame or for the money, that's not necessarily the best reason why. But if you think you wake up in the morning and you remember like your grandma or your mum, that will push you to get out of bed. So find your why, find like what's the reason as to why you want to pursue career medicine or just anything in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that was really lovely. So to finish it off on a good note, tell us about a really good moment in medicine.
In medicine, I think it was probably dissection. So I remember walking into dissection.
This guy's a weirdo.
I promise I'm not like a psycho or like a psychopath, but I think it was walking to dissection and like having a scalpel and like cutting open the human body.
It must be such a privilege.
It really was. It made me like realize that like, oh my gosh, I'm in medical school and I'm here. I finally made it.
Yeah.
And having the privilege to cut open a human body, I know it sounds really weird, but it was a massive privilege for me. And also, I think so. Last week I attended a clinic with my supervisor.
Oh, yeah.
So he's also a doctor. So in my lab, he's a researcher, but he also is a doctor and he does clinics. Yeah. And this patient had this kind of condition where she had like an outgrowth of skin, and he let me use cryotherapy, so this nitrogen gun, to kill the cells.
That's so
like
cool.
for me, like so that was my first time treating someone, because when you're like a work experience student, you just sit in the background and just like hover about.
Yeah.
But it was my first time doing something real on a patient, and like just doing that made me realize like I'm finally here and I'm finally going to be a doctor one day. So that's probably the best moments.
A nice story. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us.
No worries.
Guys, I think we're going to wrap it up here. But thank you for sharing your story. As I said,
no worries.
Kenji's channel will be linked below. He's got like tons of like really useful, entertaining and amazing content. So please go and check him out. And
thank you so much for having me on here.
It's all right.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be on here and I really enjoy it.
Since you're here, is there any kind of final either question or message or anything that you would like to ask my audience or tell my audience just to kind of finish off?
Yeah, let me think about that. I think so. To be a doctor or to be whatever you want to be in your life, you don't necessarily have to be the hardest worker. The most smartest person in the room. Because I think from my story, you can definitely know that I'm not the most academic person. I'm not the smartest person in the room. But you just have to be the hardest worker. So you have to be. If you sit in the room, like you have to know that I will put my absolute all into this, and I will work harder than anyone else.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need to be the get 3 A stars at A level.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the best classification, but you just have to be able to work hard. So I'm not the most academic person. I knew that was my weakness, and I may have had to work harder than some people in the room.
Yes.
But as long as you're willing to work for it, and as long as you're willing to be the hardest worker, that's completely fine, and you'll get there in the end.
Yes. So that was lovely. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That was like a really good point to start with. Okay then, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. As I said, don't forget to go and subscribe to Kenji. You can subscribe to me. I've got Snapchat now because I've got like a Snapchat tutor who's like teaching me to like.
I'm trying to. She's not understanding, but I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to teach her.
It's hard. I'm not down with the kids. So yeah, go and follow us and everything. It'll all be down below. And thank you so much for watching. And thank you for being on this channel.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, take care, and I will see you guys later. Bye.